Welcome to the Neo-Masculine Minutes podcast show, where my co-host Dan Ploger and myself, John Protek, discuss the truth about unreliable information. In this current age of rapid-fire information, people are growing weary of biased personal opinions, outrageous ideological narratives, outright lies, and intentional propaganda meant to divide us. Dan and I wonder, when will people fall for the truth? When will they reject the informational threats that are destroying families, ruining societies, and destroying cultures all around the world? Welcome back to another episode of Neo-Masculine Minutes, where Dan Ploger, my co-host, critical thinker himself, and I discuss relevant, obviously with an open mind, relevant subjects and issues that are facing people all over the planet. It's an understatement to say that the world is on fire, because if you look around, there are social issues taking place that are just out of control. But in particular, we're going to talk about the civil unrest that's taking place in England at this moment, where civil unrest is at an all-time high. Obviously, to those who know what's really going on, it's become the battleground for East versus West, Eastern versus Western culture. There's looting, there's assaults, mosques are getting burned down, English girls are getting raped by this mass migration, people that have come over in that. They're arresting British citizens for just posting cell phone pictures on their social media platforms, pictures of what's going on in cities all over England. And now recently, the British government and law enforcement agents within that government are saying that they will arrest American nationals and other nationals just for taking pictures. That being said, Dan, what's your take on all this? Have we lost England too, like we did France a few weeks ago? Is England gone?
The heart and spirit of England, the UK is not, but I'm afraid the structure of the UK is. I don't know who ever thought it would be a good idea to flood any nation with a bunch of people of completely different culture who have a dedication to not assimilating into the society within which they're presented. So what the hell? I mean, this is unheard of, that our God-given right to free speech, and that's God-given, not the government. The UK government doesn't dole out, if you're an American, doesn't dole out rights. The rights are given to us by God and by virtue of our existence. So, yeah, it's really sad, and I think that there's going to be a correction. I don't know what the correction is going to look like, but in the past, corrections like the American Civil War were quite painful. I hope that the upcoming United Kingdom Civil War, or the Scottish Civil War, or the Irish Civil War don't claim similar body counts.
Well, you know what? That's some really good insights, because when you think of God-given rights, I start thinking about the American founding fathers, which was 2 or 3% of the colonists here in America. You know, the 96 or 97% of the colonists just wanted to stay with England. But these founding fathers, you know, developed this Bill of Rights and this Declaration of Independence, which recognize freedoms and that are available to all of us. They don't come from any government. They come from a power much higher than the government. So I even wonder about the mass illegal infiltrators that have come into America, across our borders, that are ideologically polar opposites of Americans, don't understand our culture, and the floodgates have been opened. So, you know, is America heading towards the same place that France did not too long ago? Those riots in Paris and places around France, I never thought I'd live to see the day a civilized country like France being torn down to look like some third world country. And the same thing going on in England. And even in Germany, the Germans have had enough. Any citizen of any country that feels like their countries are under attack are going to respond. This is just the natural order of the human condition. What did they think was going to happen? But to be threatened by the government and power for just exercising a God-given right is kind of a scary notion. It's not like it hasn't happened before, but like Tulsi Gabbard, I read the other day where she was put on a terrorist watch list just because she had spoken out against this current election taking place in America. When they start putting Democratic presidential or former presidential candidates on terrorist watch list, we're in an interesting, dangerous place, I should think, Dan.
Yeah, yeah. And that's been thoroughly abused. At one time, shortly after 9/11, I was on a watch list, a terrorist watch list. And I traveled. It would be not unusual for me to have maybe 2 day trips and a couple of overnights in my business. And uh, shit, I forgot where I was going with that, John.
But yeah, it's a scary notion. But when you think about that, Dan, but yeah, carry on. Go ahead.
The where all of my I was always set out to the side. My bags were put off to the side, and I was given special attention by the TSA. And it turned out that well, I was a Vietnam veteran, and I had a pilot's license, and so those and probably a few other things. I understood that if you wore jeans with a sport jacket, that was a set off alarms for the TSA. So, but anyway, I'll say it was extremely inconvenient for me to travel, embarrassing as they rifle through my goods in front of view of everybody else. It was a mess, and it's just a case of government going misunderstanding what the people want them to do, and going ahead and doing some things, and consequences be damned.
Yeah, and so when people witness like the assault on Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump a couple years back for these documents, and then this thing with Tulsi Gabbard, like yourself, being on a terrorist watch list, when people in a higher elevation are put on the spot like that, and people at a lower elevation see that, it's a good way to get into the psyche of people and say, well, gosh, there's no hope for me. And imagine just taking your phone, being a witness to rioting and stuff going on, and all you're doing is showing a picture, and to be threatened to be arrested with something that's actually taking place. It's another way to alter reality. And I got to tell you, man, we talk to a lot of people, as you well know, and the listeners and viewers. You can't deny the fact that information everywhere is getting altered because of the things that we're witnessing. I mean, even pictures. It's so easy. You can now modulate voices. You can transpose famous people's faces on top of an image, and that person can speak and it sounds like them. And wow, maybe we need to listen or pay more attention to what's going on, because this information war, it's very relevant to the survival of people's rights and freedoms. And we're seeing it on a daily basis now, where millions and millions and millions of people are involved in the dismantling of rules of law, sovereign borders. My gosh, we could go into Canada, but that's what's going on right now. There is an assault on the human brain taking place, and we just want to be part of the conversation to let people know that pay attention. Use your intuition. Something doesn't sound right, check it out, give it some due diligence. Go online, see what the scientific method is all about. Because if we continue on this path, Dan, like you said, civil wars that have taken place that are painful. I can't even imagine a global civil war between people that think and people that don't think, that are being used as minions and useful idiots to attain some kind of agenda, which really is authoritarianism. Does that make any sense?
Sure does, John, and we need to be cognizant of what, like you say, of what's going on, what other people are saying, in the interest of restricting free speech. The governments are saying that it's hateful speech. Well, that's the antithesis of free speech, guys. So, uh, hateful speech, okay, but I reserve my right to give hateful speech. I reserve that right. That is mine. I can do it. And I only do it when I absolutely have to. But John, it's still mine to use as I see fit.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Truth is truth. We talk about visceral politics and, the level of hatred that we're seeing on a global basis. And, I was reading research study that had been done by people on, this level of hatred because of politics. And obviously, we live in a very uncertain time, and some people are better equipped than others emotionally to handle that. And you have to choose. Do you want to fall into the groupthink tank, like we see a lot of people doing, or do you want to stand out against the crowd and say, listen, people, use your brain. It's the only thing you have, and if you don't use it, then you become one of those minions and useful idiots. And I got to tell you, Dan, I've looked at a lot of people who I thought were highly intelligent human beings, and to hear some of the vitriol coming out of their mouth is quite honestly very astounding. I thought that those people were smarter than that.
Yeah. Well, when you think of people that are smarter than you, think no further than Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard, who revealed herself to be an absolute fool in front of Congress and the world, revealed that all of her research work was plagiarized and stolen from other publishers and other free thinkers. And Harvard didn't have the courage to fire her. They gave her her position back as a teacher, and along with maintaining the $900,000 a year salary that she earned as the president of Harvard. So look no further. These are presented to us as smart people, and there's nothing smart about Claudine Gay.
Well put, and I couldn't agree with you more. That's a great example. And then there's several others. But, my advice is think twice before you go to England, because who knows? You might be taking a picture of Stonehenge and some environmentalist might come up to you and say that you're some kind of domestic terrorist planning something. And then the next thing you know, this left wing, I don't even want to label it, but the government in power comes and arrests you because they're under the direction of the environmentalists. That's a whole other concept. But if you're going to become arrested for just taking a picture of something that's actually taking place, the English government has taken it to the highest levels of power and control, and that's just flat out wrong.
And it's the duty of the people, the population, and a citizenship to reverse that. They've got to put the pressure on their leaders to reverse this obvious wrong. If you restrict free speech, you restrict innovation, you restrict free thought, you drive good thought underground.
Yeah, and all I can say is, God save the Queen, God save the King, God save the people of the United Kingdom, God save truth, God save honesty, God save critical thought, logic, reason. God save all of those things that humanity needs to not only just survive, but thrive. My question is who are these people that think to have the audacity that they can have complete power and control over the minds of millions of people. And they put a dent in it. But I have great faith and I have great hope in the powers of the universe, and especially the freedom of critical thinking. I don't think that that will ever be usurped. And if it is, it'll be short lived. So who knows, Dan? We may be called the greatest terrorists in the history of the world to encourage people to use their gray matter, because it still matters. And if we don't, then we're complicit in the greatest psychological operation in global history. So thank you for listening to another episode. Use your gray matter. It still matters. And we appreciate you, and have the courage and the strength to reject unreliable information, which is really all we're about. Just, take a closer look at the things that they're telling you, the narratives, the ideologies, and think for yourself. Don't think for the rest of those fools, the tools of people that are very nefarious. Thank you.
Hey, John.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Neo-Masculine Minutes podcast show. For the men, it's simple. Think for yourself. Dig deep. Reach down. We appreciate your earnestness in wanting to embrace your masculinity again. You are indeed the sentinels of information. The people you care about are waiting for your leadership, hoping you step up to fulfill your masculine role as protectors of the human race, to save it from any further destruction caused by unreliable information.